six handles. This is getting down to 24.80. But as we start talking about what you guys are tracking, there's an interesting company, Andy, and that is Constellation Brands, which has the Corona as one of its brands underneath its umbrella. I'm sure that it's getting some mentions. I don't know if it's in the positive or in the negative light with everything going on with the pandemic.
Yeah, I think LikeFolio is probably going to have to create a new category called ironic tweets. That's what probably most of these are for Corona, the beer. You know, what we're seeing is a massive pop in the amount of people talking about this brand. And yes, a lot of it is meme worthy. A lot of it is, people joking on the brand and using it in reference to the coronavirus. But there's also, a real kind of rebellious nature to the tweets that we see, and we do see indications that people are buying Corona beer at increased pace compared to normal in an effort to say, screw you, virus. We're not going to let you control everything. We're going to drink Corona beer and we're going to enjoy ourselves a little bit. And so I think that's what's going on with Corona. I think Constellation Brands in general is seeing the benefits of a rising tide lifting all boats. Alcohol, beer, and wine sales are up across the board as people are stuck at home, quarantined, and stocking up. So I think, Constellation Brands has a lot going for it, but Corona is the standout brand out of this. And I think it's actually going to turn out to be a positive for them.
Andy, I think you're exactly right. In a world of positives and negatives, I personally have a nuclear meltdown stash of alcohol in my house currently right now. But that being said, do you ever remember an unfortunate naming of an event in any of our lives that could be or would be tied to a brand as this virus? I'm trying to think of one. I mean, it's like waking up in the morning and whatever your last name is causes cancer or something like that, and trying to manage that unbelievable tsunami of bad press and bad memes. Yeah. And most of them are just memes and jokes because no one really ties them together, but you still can't hide from what happened in it.
Yeah, that's right. And, I can distinctly remember being named Andy as Hurricane Andrew wreaked havoc on the East Coast a while back. And that wasn't any fun. I can't imagine if it was, my entire company or brand like this. But I do think that they're doing a good job of kind of managing it. Unfortunately, they have, in Mexico, they've shut down production as Corona beer has been deemed not essential by government authorities. So that's up for debate. But I think overall, this is a brand that's in the news and, is handling kind of a bad situation pretty well.
Yeah, Andy, I think there's two sides to this where it's really difficult to grasp, because as your point of maybe a lot of these purchases are ironic or whatever it might be. As far as Constellation Brands is concerned, a purchase is a purchase. But the fact that all these people are quarantined right now and all these bars and restaurants are closed, I'm sure they do a lot more of their sales to those areas of the market than maybe just to me or you. So is it going to be enough to offset all of that? Probably not. But if it can mitigate even a little bit of it, it'd be helpful, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's going to be the story with almost every company we talk about during this crisis is things probably aren't going well overall, but you've got to look for where are the bright spots. Who's going to benefit long term from this? Who's capturing the consumer and building their brand in some way during this crisis? I think Corona's doing a pretty good job of that. Considering they could be in a much worse situation. They could be getting kicked while they're down. I think they're doing a pretty good job of navigating. And Constellation Brands in general. Look, this is a good opportunity to show people some variation in what they do. They have a wide portfolio of beers and wines and spirits, and people are stuck at home and probably open to a little bit more experimentation in terms of what they drink than normally they would be.
No, it's interesting, Kevin. I've also often heard that, any press is good press. I don't know if that's always the case, but this is certainly a lot of exposure for this brand with, the kind of the meme nature of it, and I'm sure it's been talked about on various, news and other media programs just because of the name. So it's definitely getting exposure. Whether that's good enough to get people to go buy their product is up in the air, but. Thoughts on this situation and as a brand, how do you deal with this?
Yeah, I think you embrace it as fully as you can, and your marketing, probably strategy has to be, it's not us, by the way, or something that tears the Band-Aid off and exposes it for what it is. And the good news is, normal conversation has turned to calling this COVID-19 now and not Corona. So that's a good thing right there. I think tensions have eased up like that. But I mean, this is just one of those things that who can plan for that? Right? I mean, you could say that about a lot of things lately, but really, who could plan for some virus looking like in its molecule having a crown-like, so they call it Corona? Who could plan for that?
Yeah, I think another
Andy,
takeaway for
go
us
ahead.
is another takeaway for us is that there was a story this PR firm put out a study that said a certain percentage of people said that they would not try Corona beer because of the name of it, and that got a lot of press, that got a lot of attention put to the beer. And really what we found when we look at our data is that was one of the case studies of how polling can go wrong, because people were just kind of, my guess is people were just kind of insulted that the pollster would ask that question and giving them a really stupid answer. Because when we look at our data, which is, when people are talking naturally on Twitter and social media and not being asked these stupid questions, there's absolutely no indication that people are avoiding this beer because of its name. In fact, it's just the opposite. A lot of people are embracing kind of the irony of it all and the rebellious nature of drinking a Corona beer while you're at home avoiding the coronavirus.
Yeah, and Andy, I'm looking at the chart of the coronavirus beer mention, or Corona beer mentions, I'm sorry. And obviously it peaked when this was really starting to, be a big media story and starting to, come to the U.S. more so than just an international story. And we've talked about coronavirus mentions. And as Kevin's pointed out, it's kind of shifted maybe away from being called coronavirus to COVID-19 in talking about that particular the pandemic and what's involved there. We've also talked about the fatigue of just mentions in that overall. Is that still the case? And when you're analyzing that data, have you seen what Kevin's talking about with shifting this name from coronavirus in general to COVID-19 in particular?
Yeah, we've seen a massive shift in the way that people refer to this. I think Kevin's right. It's not just coronavirus anymore. COVID-19, just COVID. We've seen people just saying this virus. It's kind of like, the assumption is you're talking about this. If you're talking about anything, it dominates conversations. And I will say there is some validity to what we're talking about here, because Ad Age put out a note saying that Corona beer was Constellation Brands' biggest seller in terms of increase on a week-over-week basis. They had a 50% increase on a week-over-week basis in the last couple of weeks, whereas the rest of the brands were up a little more moderately. So I think that there's something to this. I think that, and hopefully we'll have to watch the data as it comes in, but hopefully people are actually enjoying the product and, can make it a part of their staples going forward. Maybe it's something new that people hadn't tried before very much. And, Constellation could pick up some customers as a result, long term.
Yeah, and when you're looking at this, Andy, and you're trying to unpack all this information, you said there's a lot of ironic data, so you can't necessarily say that every single one of the people talking talking about buying this is actually going out and buying it right now. But nonetheless, you just pointed out that study showing that this is a product that people are going out and it's, maybe positively been affected. The stock's still been sold off significantly here. Do you see the opportunity to be inventorying from the long side here, or is this one where you're neutral to bearish, or directionally, do you guys have a feeling on where Constellation Brands can go from here?
Yeah, I like some of the strategies you guys talk about all the time. I know JJ's been on the show talking about selling out of the money puts that are a standard deviation away and collecting premium if you don't get down there and getting the stock. If it does, I like that kind of strategy on brands like this, on portfolio companies like this that have staying power, that you see in your mind. You can see 2021, is Constellation Brands going to be selling beer, wine, and spirits? Are they probably going to be selling it at a pretty good pace as they were before this? Probably the answer to both of those is yes. And so I like those type of companies. I like the type of companies where you can see that the stock is down, as the markets are down. But in terms of the company itself and its future, there's no reason to think that this is going to have a long-term impact into 2021, 2022. That's all my thinking is right now, is who's going to be in good shape 2021, 2022, because we don't know how long this will last, and trying to figure that out, it'll drive you crazy.